Everyone is getting this war wrong. The media is getting it wrong. Politicians are getting it wrong. Social media is getting it wrong. And if you are relying on what you are hearing from the White House, you are definitely getting it wrong. This is the Iran War Explainer that nobody else is giving you. 5 things that almost everyone believes about this conflict that are either completely false, dangerously incomplete, or deliberately misleading, and why getting them right matters enormously for what happens next. Let's go. Turn on almost any mainstream American news channel right now, and you will hear about the United States decimating Iran. You will hear about 900 strikes in 12 hours. You will hear about Khamenei being killed in the opening hours of the war. And you will walk away thinking this is going smoothly. That is not the full picture. Let us start with air superiority. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth declared that the United States had achieved air dominance over Iran. Military analysts immediately pushed back hard. The War Zone, one of the most respected military aviation analysis publications in America, published a detailed investigation that found the claim of air supremacy was, in their words, absolutely not true. Here is why. Iran has road-mobile surface-to-air missile systems that can hide underground, move location, and pop up without warning. It has loitering surface-to-air missiles, systems that hunt aircraft autonomously. And here is the proof that the U.S. military itself knows it has not achieved air dominance. The B-52 bombers flying missions against Iran are not entering Iranian airspace at all. They are firing AGM-158 JASSM stealthy cruise missiles from outside Iran's borders, over Iraq. You do not launch from standoff range if you own the sky over your target. The U.S. military is being forced to operate cautiously because Iranian air defenses are still very much alive and capable. Meanwhile, the decisive opening strikes killed Khamenei and dozens of senior officials. But Iran has a deep bench of institutional power. The Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, the IRGC, runs Iran's military and much of its economy. Its commanders are dispersed, its command structures are redundant, and its missile and drone stockpiles are distributed across the country in hardened underground facilities. Killing the top leadership does not automatically stop the machine. 6 American soldiers are already dead. An Iranian drone found a U.S. facility in Kuwait despite layers of American air defenses in the region. The war is 10 days old, and Iran is still firing hundreds of drones and missiles every single day. This is not a country that has been defeated. It is a country that is fighting back with everything it has. This is perhaps the most important misconception of all, because it is the one the White House is working hardest to maintain. The official American justification for launching this war was Iran's nuclear program. Trump stood at the State of the Union and told Congress that Iran was building missiles capable of striking the United States, that it had restarted its nuclear program, and that it was on the verge of building a nuclear bomb. But here is what the facts actually show. The Defense Intelligence Agency concluded in 2025 their own assessment that it would be a full decade before Iran would be able to build an arsenal of missiles that could reach the United States. The U.S. Department of Defense itself estimated that the June 2025 strikes on Iranian nuclear sites had already set Iran's nuclear program back by 2 years. And then there is the diplomatic record. Just 1 day before the bombs fell, on February 27th, Oman's foreign minister, Badr al-Busaidi, told reporters that a breakthrough had been reached in nuclear negotiations. Iran had agreed to never stockpile enriched uranium. It had agreed to full verification by the International Atomic Energy Agency.
it had agreed to irreversibly downgrade its current enriched uranium to the lowest level possible. Oman's foreign ministers said peace was within reach. The IAEA itself, the United Nations nuclear watchdog, said after the war began that it had found no evidence of an organized Iranian nuclear weapons program. Trump's own Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, told a different story, saying Iran had been boasting in negotiations and trying to strong-arm the American team, but independent diplomats who were in the room gave a contradictory account. What is beyond dispute is that a deal was being negotiated and was apparently close to completion when the strikes were launched. If this war was truly about preventing a nuclear Iran, then why did it start on the day a nuclear deal was reportedly within reach? The standard American media framing of this war presents Iran as a rogue state fighting alone against the combined might of the United States and Israel. That framing is dangerously wrong. Russia is feeding Iran satellite intelligence on the exact location of American troops and warships in real time. 6 American soldiers in Kuwait are dead, and U.S. officials believe Russia provided the targeting data that helped Iran find them. Russia's motive is clear. Every missile Iran fires at a U.S. base is a missile not going to Ukraine. Every American dollar spent in the Persian Gulf is a dollar not going to Kyiv. Iran's network of regional allies, referred to collectively as the Axis of Resistance, is also still operational. Hezbollah in Lebanon has been significantly degraded over the past 2 years, but the Houthis in Yemen are still firing. Iraqi militia groups have attacked U.S. targets, and before he was killed, Khamenei warned explicitly, if they start a war, this time it will be a regional war. That warning has proven accurate. China has not entered the conflict militarily, but U.S. intelligence reports say Beijing is preparing to provide Iran with financial assistance, spare parts, and missile components. China imports 84% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz and has a direct economic interest in seeing this war end, but in the meantime, it is not standing aside entirely. Iran is not fighting alone, and the longer this war goes, the more allies it draws in. This one is more nuanced and more important than almost anyone is discussing. It is true that Iran experienced its largest anti-government protests since the 1979 revolution in late 2025 and early 2026. It is true that the Iranian government massacred protesters, with death tolls estimated between 7,000 and 43,000 people, depending on the source. It is true that many Iranians despise the Islamic Republic and want regime change. But wanting regime change is not the same thing as welcoming American bombs. When the United States and Israel began bombing Iranian cities, the protests stopped. The people who had been marching in the streets against their own government were now watching their cities burn. Social media accounts from inside Iran, verified by multiple international journalists, showed Iranians expressing fury not at the Islamic Republic, but at the United States and Israel. The most common sentiment, "We wanted to free ourselves. You have now made us defend the very regime we were trying to remove." Trump appeared on television and said he was acting on behalf of the Iranian people. He called on Iranians to take over their own government, but the U.S. strikes hit military facilities in Tehran, Isfahan, and Qom, cities where ordinary Iranian civilians live, work, and send their children to school. The girls' school in Minab, where 165 children were killed, was not a military target. Every civilian death that can be attributed to U.S. strikes makes the task of genuine regime change harder, not easier. History is very clear on this point. Bombing a population into freedom has never worked, not in Iraq, not in Libya, not in Syria. There is no reason to believe Iran will be the exception. Trump promised a short war. He said it would last 4 to 5 weeks. His team assured the American public that Iran would be brought to the table quickly.
but the Open Canada Centre for International Governance Innovation, a nonpartisan foreign policy research institution, published a detailed analysis this week, making a critical point that almost no one in the mainstream media is discussing. Regime change in Iran requires ground troops, and lots of them. Iran has a population of 89 million people. It has mountains, deserts, and a military built specifically to resist foreign invasion after watching Iraq collapse in 2003. The IRGC alone has an estimated 125,000 active combat troops plus 90,000 besiege paramilitary forces embedded throughout Iranian society. The U.S. administration has explicitly ruled out putting boots on the ground, but here is the problem with that position. If the goal is actually regime change, and both Trump and Netanyahu have said repeatedly that it is, then airstrikes alone have never, in the history of modern warfare, achieved regime change. They can destroy infrastructure, they can kill leadership, they cannot topple a government and replace it with a stable alternative. That requires an occupation, and an occupation of Iran would dwarf the Iraq and Afghanistan wars combined. The analysis from Open Canada was blunt. If American losses mount and the air campaign fails to force Iranian capitulation, Trump faces two options: deploy hundreds of thousands of ground troops in direct contradiction of everything he campaigned on, or escalate to weapons of a kind that has not been used since 1945. Neither option is one the American public has been asked about. Neither option was on the ballot. Here is the bottom line. The U.S. is not winning the air war as advertised. The nuclear justification for the war does not hold up against the diplomatic record. Iran is not isolated. Russia is actively helping kill American soldiers. The Iranian people are not celebrating U.S. bombs falling on their cities, and nobody has explained to the American public how this war actually ends without a ground invasion nobody wants. 5 things everyone keeps getting wrong. 5 things that have enormous consequences for every American family with a loved one in uniform, for every American filling up their gas tank, and for every American who was promised their government had a plan.